Unit 5, Lesson 9, Backwards in Time, 9.2. A traffic safety engineer was studying travel patterns along a highway. She set up a camera and recorded the speed and direction of cars and trucks that passed by the camera. Positions to the east of the camera are positive, and positions to the west are negative. So we know if they go east, they're positive. And if they go west, let me erase that. Let's see, east are positive, and if they go west, they are negative. Here are some positions for one car. So 0, 0 is when the car is right in front of the camera. So it wouldn't have any speed. If they're going this way, it's positive. If the car is traveling this way, it's negative. Or depending on which way the camera tracks their speed. So let's see. In what direction is the car traveling and what is its velocity? Well, let's see what we could get for an answer. If I took 120 and divided it by 2, I would get a positive 60. I don't know why it keeps doing that. All right, positive 60. 60 divided by 1 is 60. 0 divided by 0 is 0. Sorry, 60, this is a positive 60. 0 divided by 0 is 0. Negative 60 divided by negative 1, because if I divided feet over seconds, so I would know how many feet per second, then this would be a positive 60, because two negatives make a positive when you're dividing. Same thing here, and same thing here. That means that the direction the car is traveling is positive, and remember, positive was east. So the car is traveling east. What is its velocity? It is traveling 60 feet per second. What does it mean when the time is 0? So let's see, when the time is 0, what does that mean? Well, in this situation, that just means that the car is right in front of the camera. So it's not any feet away from it, and it's not traveling at that moment because it's directly in front. What could it mean to have a negative time? Well, if you remember, it said that if it has a negative time, that means it's going to the west. Or maybe, in this one, since it's traveling east, this is 3 seconds coming from the west. If the car's traveling this way, so when the camera picks it up, it would start on the west side, and it would be traveling until it gets in front of the camera, and then it goes this way. So to have a negative time means that it's traveling from the west. Let's look at another one. Here are different positions for a car, and its velocity is negative 50 feet per second. So in front of the camera, nothing, and it's traveling negative 50 feet per second. So going this way 1 second, negative 50, 2 seconds, negative 100. But what if we go the other way? Well, negative 1 times negative 50 is positive 50. Negative 2 times negative 50 is positive 100. And negative 3 times negative 50 is positive 150. Complete the rest of the table, so that's what we did. In what direction is the car traveling now? Well, we know that if we took 100 divided by 2 is 50, but this is a negative divided by a positive, which gives us a negative. And if I look, it would happen the same time. 50 divided by 1 is 50. Positive divided by a negative is a negative. So they would have all added up to negative 50, and that's what it said. Its velocity is negative 50, which means that it is traveling to the west. So it is traveling this way. Notice it started, or it's at 0, 0, but since we have a negative velocity, that means it's going to the west. And sometimes that's how they track velocity, is instead of saying left and right or east and west, they'll just put negative for west and positive for east. Complete the table for several different cars passing the camera. So like if you're at a street and cars are going past a camera, they're coming from different directions because most streets are two ways, and they're tracking how fast those cars go. So 25 times 10 is 250. 25 times 10 is 250, but it's a positive times a positive, which gets us a positive answer. Here we have negative 20 times 30. Well, 20 times 30 is 600. Negative times a positive is a negative. So this is going to be a negative 600. See if I hold the pen a different way, maybe that'll stop doing that. Negative 600. So if you want to try the rest, you could in your notes to see if you would get the correct answers. Well, I'm going to move this up actually some, so that way maybe it won't do that with the pen so much. So I have positive 32 times negative 40. 32 times 40 is 1280. And positive times a negative is a negative. So my answer is negative 1280. 35 times 20, but they're both negatives. Negative 35 times negative 20. 35 times 20 is 700. And negative times a negative is a positive. So it is a positive 700. 15 times 8, both are negatives. 15 times 8 is 120. Negative times a negative is a positive. So we have a positive 120. So if we look back up here, the ending position tells us where the car is at. And we can figure out if a car is traveling east when it passes the camera, will its position be positive or negative 60 seconds before it passes the camera? Well, if you think about it, if it's traveling this way, and we know once it hits the camera, this way is positive. If it is 60 seconds before it passes the camera, that means it's over on this side, so it would be a negative. Again, oh my goodness, negative. I'll just write it out. Okay. If we multiply a positive number and a negative number, is the result positive or negative? Anytime that you multiply a positive number times a negative number, you get a negative answer. The negative always wins when you have one of each. Your answer then will be negative. If you're multiplying and they have a negative sign, that means in the problem, there need to be two negatives to make up for the one positive. If a car is traveling west when it passes the camera, will its position be positive or negative 60 seconds before it passes the camera? So it's the opposite. If it's going to the west, which means going to the left, that means it's starting on the right side, and so its beginning position would be positive. If we multiply two negatives, is the result positive or negative? If we multiply two negatives, so I have a negative number times a negative number, my result will have to be positive. Two negatives make a plus. And when you're multiplying, two negatives become a positive. Going cruising. Okay, around noon, a car was traveling at negative 32 meters per second down a highway. At exactly noon, when the time was at 0, the position of the car was 0 meters. Complete the table. Well, we know the time is negative 10 here, or negative 7, and it is going negative 32 meters per second. That means that we have to multiply the time by how fast it's going, its velocity, in order to find its position. So we'll have negative 10 times 32 is a positive 320, because negative 32 times negative 10, negative times a negative is a positive, and 32 times 10 is 320. So you could try the rest. Negative 7 times negative 32 is a positive 224. Negative 4 times negative 32 is a positive 128. Negative 1 times a negative 32 is a positive 32. 2 times negative 32 is a negative 64, because now I have a positive times a negative, gets me a negative. 5 times negative 32 is negative 160. 8 times negative 32, negative 256. And 11 times negative 32 is negative 352. Then it says that we should plot these points. So if I were to plot this one, we could see that when it goes in front of the camera, or at exactly noon, it's at 0 meters. So I know 0, 0 is 1 point on the graph. Then I can plot these. This is my time and my position. So my time is going to be in the x, and the position is going to be the y numbers. Negative 10, positive 320, so that's going to be somewhere up here. Negative 7, positive 224. And we won't be able to get it perfect, but it'll be somewhere around here. So I'll continue to plot these. And notice it's starting to trend in a line. It has a constant rate. Remember that we talked about constant rates, and that makes somewhat of a straight line, and this one should hopefully technically be somewhat, but I don't have all of the points, so I can't be exact when I'm plotting. Positive 5, negative 160, positive 8, negative 256, and I don't have, or maybe I do, let's see, and 11 and negative 352, which would be maybe, yeah, somewhere down here. If you notice the line is going down from left to right, that means it has a negative slope. Just an added thing in there. What was the position at the car at negative 3 seconds? So if negative 3 was here, we know it would be somewhere between 32 and 128. So if I did negative 3 times, I know that the car is traveling negative 32 meters per second. So negative 3 times negative 32 equals a positive 96. And I could check and go, okay, negative 3 and positive 96, that would have fit here. The other question was, what is the position at 6.5 seconds? So if I take 6.5 and I multiply it by negative 32, 6.5 times negative 32 is negative 208. And if I were to check it, 6.5 negative 208, sorry, should be about here, so that would work. All right, now you can go to the Google form and see if you could pass the little quiz assignment.